item I went to. Our newest staff member, Jessica. You want to say anything? Or?
Yeah, no, thank you. I'm very excited. I have spent about 8 years working for New York State Office of General Services. I manage the state portfolio, worked on a handful of big development projects, took the lead on those for OGS for the state of New York, like the tech building, a lot of the contracts between Albany, DOT, OGS. Prior to that, I was with FRC Development. I was the director of the population office. And then going back, right? Before that, I worked for Homes and Community Renewal. Managed the community development program. And so economic developer, really excited to get back to local economic development and being part of Mike's team here. So thank you. Looking forward to meeting you all and diving right in.
Yeah, and hear your ideas.
Well, that's excited, and Jessica is, I couldn't be more excited to have her join the team, and Martha and Lauren, and Lisa and Kat are also excited to work with Jessica. I think we crossed paths when I was at the Harriman campus and you were at the city of Albany, which, you know, a long time ago. So, and I think one of the things we've been looking at is, rather than give Jessica tasks as they come up, giving her clear responsibilities, and main responsibility will be to develop, implement the Columbia Forward program, where the county is providing us with $150,000 a year plus the additional money for Martha for the loan program. Obviously, those funds will 2,500 of those funds will be shared with the chamber, but we need to coordinate their activities and dovetail them with what we're doing. In addition, we've discussed having Jessica work with Mary Ellen to coordinate with the board a strategic plan that we put off because of COVID. It was hard to do strategic planning on Zoom, with the goal of completing that by September 30th. I think also with the fact that we now have we'll have presumably additional funding from SBA, we'll have the additional funding from the county. We'll be continuing with broadband and housing that I think, you know, we'll be able to really in a better position to know where we're headed than we were when we first attempted to start the strategic planning process some time ago. I'm also asked Jessica to work towards taking responsibility for the Columbia IDA and the Hudson IDA, as well as the community renewal grant program, which she worked on when she was with the state. That's a particularly interesting program because we can get we have to demonstrate that we actually incurred the cost, but we can get up to $16,000 per project in revenue. And so we think that right now we have 3 projects. We have the Hudson Valley Creamery project. We have Clock Estates. We have Renew Brewery across the street. And we think that, and we also have some pending applications, one for Clankville Farms for $250,000 for farm housing. So, and I think, you know, with the 2 IDAs, certainly we'll work together on that, but we expect the county IDA to close Clock Estates today. And we've been working with Andy and Joe Scott at Hudson Russ on that. The IDA did a pre-closing which enabled the developer to use the sales tax exemption, but they finally got their financing with farm credit, and they're going to be closing on that project. We've had good news that the town of Greenport assessor has met with the developer from 178 Gilly Boulevard, which is the Redburn company, in an effort to resolve the assessment questions that were holding that project up. They're now looking at taking it from one large building, which the planning board was not thrilled with. It looked, it looked like a cruise ship, 150 units in one building, and they're looking at phasing it into 2 or 3 buildings. But that one is back on track, and that's not only important to the IDA in terms of fee income, but also the community in terms of some affordable housing. We're also anticipate some other projects being interested in the county IDA. At the city IDA, they did pass a moratorium not to approve any hotel projects for 90 days. They're still accepting applications for projects. But what they're looking at is how to modify or revise their project uniform project criteria to incorporate into the criteria a variety of additional evaluation metrics that would focus on what's your impact on housing, what's your impact on the environment, what's your ability to positively impact wages and job training. It gets a little bit, difficult because when you start to score projects, the score, and we're strongly advising them not to do that, because if someone gets a 68 and a score is 70, does that mean they can't have any benefits? Or is it a sliding scale? There's also some discussion of using living wage. Well, the only method of calculating living wage is through an MIT website. And living wage goes up significantly based on whether there's 1 or 2 incomes in the household, whether there's 1 to 3 children in the household. And the lawyer, Chris Shell, for the IDA at the city indicated to them that it's discriminatory to a single person with no children to be requiring someone to get IDA benefits that they pay double the salary for that hourly rate for the same job for someone just because their household has more dependents in it. So I think they're trying to look at some of the social issues that impact the city. Some of them may be determined to be outside of what the IDA has the ability to require of a developer. And others, they would be encouraging the developer to work with either community groups or neighbors for a community benefit agreement. It's a little complex, but I think it's there's been it's particularly focused at the hotels. There's a 620 Union Street Hotel, which is still in process moving forward. They're attempting to resolve financing issues, but that's 50 rooms. There's 40 rooms at the Pocketbook Factory. Obviously, there's the 50 rooms at the WIC that were done by the county IDA. But there's a 30 room at the Elks Club and a application from Galvin for 40 rooms at 401 Warren Street. It's the northwest corner of Warren Street. So the IDA at the city is also in the process of reviewing what's being known as SEC 7 LLC, which is 7 Dock Street, which is the old town and country market. They purchased the property. They want to rehab the existing building, and they want to put a 4,000 square foot addition with double the size of it. And they then want to bring in significant refrigeration and freezer capacity and a food processing kitchen, where they would be making, moving an operation from New Jersey to Hudson, where they would make a variety of prepackaged meals that they sell to New York City restaurants or metropolitan area restaurants. I shouldn't say this, but I did ask them for the list. We would certainly be willing to help them if they gave me the list of those restaurants. So I'm sure to avoid going to them, to find out that I'm not having a meal dish that was made in Hudson 2 months ago. But no, it's a great business, and that public hearing on that project is tomorrow, and the IDA will consider it the following week. At the county IDA, you'll recall that the county had given us given the IDA a piece of property to sell, lot 8. We had 2 or 3 different proposals for it over time. We finally closed on that a week or 2 ago. The IDA got $90,000 from Richard Glass, who has a construction business where it's going to be his shop and lay down area in the Commerce Park. I did participate at the invite of Dr. Drummer on a week ago Saturday, where the Board of Trustees and the Foundation Board of the college had a retreat, 8 to 1:30. And we discussed all of the issues that are facing the college, including how to stimulate enrollment, strengthen links to the local economy, and identify and redefine the higher education marketplace. Discussed declining birth rates, declining confidence in education generally, namely the perception of the reduced value of college, changing marketplace, rebranding the college to meet workforce development needs. Chris Nardone from the Workforce Investment Office at the college and I were the guest speakers on the economic development outlook. Very direct discussion, realizing that community colleges, as we've known them over time, are going to have to adapt. And I think Dr. Drummer was pleased with the overall presentations and discussions. Last week we had Empire State Development came to visit. They spent a half day here and a half day in Greene County to visit to discuss the recently released round 12 of the Regional Economic Development Council process. Applications for the $200 million of ESD money will be over a period of time where it'll be rolling. So once a month, they'll close the funding cycle until the money runs out statewide, as opposed to all of the other state funding programs where the application is due on July 29th. We set up a tour for them where they visited the Crandall Theater and Bioforce, which is a company we've worked with for many years at Commerce Park that wants to expand. I then took them to see where Redburn is considering the apartment project, and Napa, at the Napa Auto Supply site. Also, Maybe's Moving and Storage is looking to build a facility on that corner. We then went to meet with the purchaser of the Ackerman building, just over here on 7th or 8th, I guess. And we then went down and they toured the CAS site, and then we hosted a lunch for 35 people at the facility. They were very pleased with the tour. I think the people who attended either by where we visited or at the lunch got a lot out of it. I want to thank Kara and Dave for joining us. And I guess just get a little perspective on the event from both of you. Yes.
Sure, I couldn't believe how available they were. They made it really clear that they were open and available. Gave out business cards, said exactly how to get in touch with them. So I thought that was really helpful, especially for the people attending that. And also probably they would network, the attendees would probably network that out to, other people that they knew that were in the market for help.
There seemed to be a number of attendees that didn't understand the process.
Yeah.
It was learning.
You know, they had asked us to put together a representative sample of business owners, not-for-profits, arts and cultural people, government people. And Jessica was very interested in how it worked because that used to be her job. If you were there, we would have asked you to critique it instead. And I think it was very beneficial to us because it continues to strengthen the relationship that CEDC has, not only with the people looking to get grants, but also the state. And, you know, the only downside was, you know, they gave us like 5 days notice and you know, when someone heard they went to the Crandall, well, why didn't they come to the Hudson Hall? You know, I mean, yeah, that tug of war, but, you know, and, you know, we've done really well. Last year we had $18 million of CFA awards. I think it's over $100 million over the full program. And I think, you know, there were a couple of people there who, they got $500,000 last year. And I think someone took them aside and said, maybe you have to sit out a year. But, you know, I do think overall it was good. I think that pretty much concludes what I wanted to update you on as an executive committee. And
Anything on the county property in Commerce Park?
yes, we, as you can recall, the county asked us to acquire a parcel that adjoins the Commerce Park on Route 9H from, I never get the name right, Sesternino. I leave the N out. And we had Andy helped us get a purchase and sale contract signed. I think it was May 3rd. As I discussed with the board, commissioned not only a environmental assessment, but also a new appraisal. The appraisal they had was a couple of years old, and it was at 180 grand, and the purchase price was 220. The appraisal came in at 240, based on you know, the comparable sales that had occurred more recently. And I think also because that land will be accessible now to water and sewer, it makes it more valuable. I think Andy had the title report done and sent to the sellers or the seller's attorney, and we're waiting for them to close. I cashed out the $150,000 CD that we had at Berkshire Bank, so that in addition to the other funds that we have from the county, we will have the money for the closing. You know, out of the 224, there's approximately $120,000 that we've been holding from previous sales for the county directed expenditures. Originally, they had asked us to hold it for a fire tower at the Commerce Park, which now I think they're going to use ARPA money for if they decide to go ahead with it. You know, that leaves us about $100,000 short, but we have the $90,000 that from the land sale to the IDA that they're going to send us. So, you know, we're basically covered, and if the county decides that they want to use the property and purchase it, they'll pay us the net difference plus the appraisal, legal, and other related closing costs. So I think they were surprised that we could, you know, move it as quickly as we did. We did attend the Board of Supervisors meeting on Wednesday, and you know, big question was, where are you on that? Well, we're just waiting for the seller to clear his title.
All right, back to the agenda. Minutes from the January 11th meeting. I trust that everyone has read them and reviewed them. And are there any comments? Not on a motion to approve them. Motion to approve. And a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Is anyone opposed? It's carried. You want to do more on the strategic plan, or are you good?
Jessica and I just got started, and obviously we have our our Tony Jones model, if you will, was, three pillars, which we ended up making four because of some of us thought we needed workforce and education. I thought we needed quality of life to assure people that we weren't but with three main components under each pillar and then three action items under each component. That still gives you, more specific tasks and goals than anyone could possibly achieve in a 1, 2, or 3 year period. I think the key is to have it much more metric driven. And I think if we go back and look, we've generally addressed the issues that were in the original plan as modified when we first updated it. But I do think that as we move forward, our focus really needs to give us the ability to use the plan that's adopted by the board to keep us 60% on track, so we only spend 40% of our time on the crisis du jour. Otherwise, spend up 80% of your time on the crisis du jour, and it helps us learn what they know. More able to address it.
Thanks. Next item, and I asked to put this on here just as an information item, inactive board members. We have a couple. I'm not going to mention any names. Sarah will be dealing with it when the time comes, but they do exist, and I don't know what else to say. We're gonna have to
I think it's sort
either
of
pull the plug on them or at some point just say what's up. But I've contacted both of them and advised them or talked to them about it, and they both said, I'll be at the next meeting, and they weren't. And, so that's what we are. All right. Enough said on that. Unless you want to comment.
No, I think it's just every so often we have something like that.
Yeah.
It happens.
I just thought that the executive committee should be aware of it. Item 4 is MC Fiber Services contract. Mike, you want to talk about that?
As you know, we contracted with MC Fiber, which is John McAdoo and his brother Andy. They did the broadband study. Our initial contract with them was for $30,000. And when they completed that last summer, after they went out and identified the various broadband infrastructure that currently existed and identified the gaps, we entered into a second contract with them for $30,000. There's still $5,000 left on that contract. They're now asking for a third contract. Obviously, on the recommendation of this committee and the board, we would go to the county to see if the county felt that the additional services were within the scope of what they want us to undertake, because it would require for us to sign the contract, we need the county to backstop the expense. I'm wondering at this point if it's really possible to define a scope of work, and I don't know that we just want them on retainer. But I also think that once the federal monies and state monies start running, I don't want to, have to go back and get them fired up again. So we're trying driving the car with the clutch here. But I think getting, and then because of the county process of, they only have economic development committees every other month. They only meet once a month. I think that, I'd like to be able to go to the board, get approval to begin the process of pursuing it, and then approve it at the September board meeting, but at least get the conversation going with them as to a more definitive scope of work, and then get the county on board to have it approved at their September meeting as well.
My 2 cents on all this is the original contract that we did with them for $30,000 was an incredible value. They did a complete audit of the county. They looked at every single telephone pole. and who was hooked up to it, and could they get broadband? And I thought that was for 30 grand, that was a steal. We did quite well. So that being done, now we have the audit. The second contract was mostly just maintenance, keeping an eye on federal and state monies that might become available, and just keeping an eye on things. I didn't think that was as good a deal, but we did it anyway, and it was okay. Now they're proposing a third contract, probably even less work, with the exception that they say they're going to do a resurvey, which if they did the resurvey, it would be, I don't think we need a resurvey right now.
Yeah, is there an end to this, or is this,
Yeah,
I mean,
what-
are we shooting for, are they shooting for like a recurring?
I think we're gonna need them.
And I think they need a recurring. But do we need to do a resurvey
No.
now? I don't think so. I think once money's become available, I think within 2 weeks, they could do a resurvey and say, okay, there's 6 houses here that, well, we made a mistake on, and 12 over there that have been added, and so a couple minor changes. And we'll have-
I'm thinking
we'll have a
that
new
we
one.
would almost get it approved, but not trigger the contract. And because we need them once the money comes. But we don't need them to be available for us to, call and shoot the breeze with every 2 weeks
Yeah.
to see where they are.
I would suggest, I don't know if they go for it or not, but pull the resurvey, the immediate resurvey out, and let it be known that we only need to resurvey once we have money in our sites. Everything else could stay the same. And would they go for a year instead of 6 months for 30 grand?
I think that, no, I would almost, I think it's hard for them to do a year because we don't know the scope of work once the money comes. I
Well,
don't,
I think once the money comes, everything changes.
but, I also think that, if we went to 30,000, for, I'd like to see where, we gave them, if for 6 months, we gave them $1,000 a month to be available for us. That's $6 grand, and then we have $24,000 that we will define the scope of work when the money comes. Okay. And then if the scope of work is larger than the 24,000 that's left, we can negotiate that. Because I do think that, for a resurvey, I would send the list back to the providers and say, you update us on what you completed. We don't really need that. But I don't want them to think that we want to cut them off. They go get other work and they don't realize that, that they take all the money to Hamilton County because they kept them on the retainer. But I don't think we can define the bulk of the scope of work today. And I agree with Dave. We don't need them spending the summer riding around looking at poles. Right.
Approved at the county level. Right. So if it's fund at some point in the third quarter.
You want to be ready. And we have $5,000 left on the current contract. So,
Do something to keep the plane ready.
yeah. And, we've asked them to come, we have a meeting with a group that's identified that wants, presumably wants to overbuild Ulster, Dutchess, and Columbia Green counties, which, as Dave pointed out to me, that would take 10 years. But it's a national firm that's backed by venture capital that wants to come in, and I think what they're looking at is the state's program is designed to get people to overbuild so there's competition rather than fill the holes, which we're still arguing with the state about. A county like Columbia, you don't need an Stuyvesant to finish 46 addresses. You don't need someone coming in and building a complete system to compete with Mid-Hudson. At the same time, I think these folks see that this is how you can get the money. And, we got a government affairs guy came to us. He used to work for Maurice and He has a consulting firm in Kingston. And he's bringing to them, we had a conversation with him. He's bringing the principals on Thursday here. I'd like to have these two guys on that call, but I don't need to, have a $30,000 6-month contract that evaporates whether you need them next month or next week or not. Right. So.
All right, that's all I have. Public comment? Seeing none,
We need to take any sort
oh, do you?
of
Sure.
for the contract.
For the kind of,
Do you need a motion?
it'd be a motion to, begin the process, to extend the contract, on approval, at $1,000, a month until the scope of work can be defined. Why don't we do 3 months at 1,000? And then the remaining balance, the scope of work will be defined. So move.
All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. Motion to adjourn.
So,
Second.
So thank you. I did tell Dave, that, the board meeting on the 28th. I'm gonna be away, but I'm gonna call him. It's the first time I've been away, but we moved our vacation up because our daughter's, supposed to have a baby the week we were gonna